I'm not going to stand for a man, someone with the in the women's locker room. That's not okay. And I'm a victim of abuse myself. I'm a rape survivor. I have PTSD from the abuse I've suffered at the hands of a man. Well, I'm pro transgender rights. I'm pro LGBTQ. And I know how vulnerable women and girls are in private spaces. So I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms.
Let's talk about Nancy Mace, the Republican congresswoman who at first glance appears to be leading the fight against gender ideology.
So this is a woman who will not take any guff from the trans activists and their proponents. And she has, in recent months, made that her brand. She has positioned herself as a leader in the fight against gender ideology. She likes to tweet with the hashtag hold the line, a slogan that she's adopted because she is, we're supposed to believe, holding the line against the trans madness.
But wait, there's a catch. Less than 2 years ago, this same Nancy Mace was sitting with the corporate media, all smiles, openly supporting LGBTQ rights.
So I touch a lot of sensitive subjects because I want to show that as conservatives, we can be compassionate. We can show love.
How does that inform your position on transgender rights?
Well, I'm pro transgender rights. I'm pro LGBTQ. Just don't go to the extreme with our kids. Our kids...
Define extremism there for me.
Surgery. The hormone blockers that sterilize our children. We shouldn't be doing that when a child is prepubescent or going through puberty. Let that child go through the natural process of life and let them make that permanent decision when they're older. Most people would support be who you want to be, but don't make those permanent changes when it's a child.
That was in 2023. Yes, you heard that right, 2023. Not a decade ago, not even 5 years ago, just last year. If that shift seems sudden to you, you're not alone. How do you go from backing trans rights to positioning yourself as a leading opponent of gender ideology in just a few months?
In fact, she not only supported the idea that a child might have a different gender identity, quote unquote, she said that most people would support it. To her, it was obvious, a given. So tell me, Nancy, what do you think trans rights are? What rights specifically fall under that umbrella? Well, I'll tell you. A man using the women's restroom. That is specifically and explicitly what is meant when trans activists talk about trans rights. That is the trans right they're demanding.
If someone with the is in the women's locker room, that's not okay.
Did she have some kind of major revelation? Or is this just a case of convenient political rebranding? Lately, Mace has been presenting herself as a fearless fighter determined to keep men out of women's restrooms. She's out there using hashtags like #HoldTheLine, making passionate speeches and positioning herself as a major threat to trans activism.
I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms.
But just last year, she had no problem with the idea of young boys being called girls and socially transitioning.
Now, if they want to take on a different pronoun or a different gender identity or grow their hair out or wear a dress or wear pants or...
Trans activists have made it very clear what trans rights means. It means that if a biological male identifies as a woman, he should have access to female-only spaces including bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports teams. If you support trans rights, that's part of the deal, no exceptions.
Okay, we were already well into the period when it was pretty safe to fundamentally oppose gender ideology. And yet, Nancy Mace didn't oppose it at the time. Does she now? I don't know. In 2023, she supported trans rights in those words.
Yet now, here she is, acting like she's been leading this fight all along. She even accused South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson of copying her, as if she were the original trailblazer in this movement.
And she posted this. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. We led the fight to protect women. Alan Wilson holds a press conference on it. We visit the South Carolina National Guard. Alan Wilson visits the South Carolina National Guard. We speak at Greenwood County GOP. Alan Wilson speaks at Greenwood County GOP. Well, thank you, Alan Wilson. We're flat.
Let's be real. The people who have actually been fighting this battle have been in it for years. Back when it was risky, back when speaking out against gender ideology could get you blacklisted, cancelled, or worse. If Nancy Mace had come forward and said, I was wrong about trans rights and now I see the dangers of gender ideology, that would be one thing. But that's not what she's doing.
But this is the kind of ego that we're dealing with. This is someone who posted a tribute to the people who started the fight to protect women's sports, and it's literally just 3 pictures of her. I mean, come on.
She constantly reminds us that she was the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, saying she fought like hell to earn that achievement and won't let some man in a miniskirt take it away from her. Sounds strong, right? But let's take a closer look.
Quote, I didn't fight like hell to become the first woman to graduate from the Citadel just for some man in a miniskirt to take away that achievement. Protecting women's accomplishments isn't a political talking point for me.
Nancy, let's be honest. Your dad was literally the commandant of the Citadel while you were there. That's not exactly an underdog story.
The point is Nancy Mace's feminist girl boss routine. And that is what is pushing me over the edge and forcing me to do this segment, which I don't really want to do, but I have to. You know, Nancy, you say that you fought like hell to be the first female graduate of the Citadel. Well, first of all, your dad was the commandant when you were there, so I imagine, you had some help in that fight.
And here's why that matters. The same logic that forced the Citadel to admit women is the same logic trans activists use today to justify allowing biological men into female spaces. You wanted to break down male-only barriers? Well, that door swings both ways. This is the uncomfortable truth no one wants to discuss. The feminist movement spent decades fighting for women to be included in male-only institutions, from the military to sports teams. Their argument? That biology shouldn't determine where someone belongs. Sound familiar? That's exactly what trans activists argue today when they push for trans women to compete in women's sports or use women's locker rooms. They're using the same reasoning feminists use to tear down male-only spaces.
So we rightly lament the death of female-only spaces, but the truth that you are so hopefully bringing to light is that male-only spaces died a long time ago. Thanks to people like you, every uniquely masculine and exclusively male space, including those spaces that had very good reason to be uniquely masculine and exclusively male, like the military and related institutions, has been feminized.
Look, I don't have a problem with politicians changing their views. In fact, I respect it if it's genuine. If Nancy Mace truly had a change of heart and now understands the dangers of gender ideology, great. But that's not what's happening. She's not admitting she was wrong. She's not explaining what made her change her mind. She's just acting like her past never happened.
And this is why I can't just sit silently and listen to a prominent voice in the Republican Party try to reframe the fight against gender ideology in feminist terms. I can tolerate the showboating and you taking credit when you should be giving it, but I can't tolerate that because you are hurting the cause that some of us actually have been fighting for and fighting for a long time. A lot longer than you, Nancy.
Until she does that, she's not a leader. She's just another politician trying to jump on a trending issue, and we're not falling for it.
And that is why Nancy Mace is today, I'm afraid to say, canceled.
But what do you think? Is Nancy Mace really taking a stand against gender ideology? Or is she just another opportunist riding the wave? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's keep this conversation going.